What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another weekly update. And where we left off last week was Jackson Hole. Yes, we waited essentially for a month for Jackson Hole. The whole market has kind of just been at a standstill, waiting to see what happens. Yes, we've had some movements. Most movement has been early in the morning or a power hour. The rest of the day is pretty stagnant. Being said, 2 weeks ago, I believe it was when we had the FOMC meeting minutes. And in those minutes, it's essentially clarified everything that Powell just reiterated on Friday. Being said, there will be no rate raises for a long time. It's not saying that assets, the purchasing of assets will not start this year. And that's something that Powell has reiterated, that they do want to start tapering as far as buying assets sometime this year. More than likely, it won't be till around November, December, because ultimately they want to determine what is going to happen with the debt ceiling. Once the debt ceiling is, if we're determined if that's extended or what is going on with that, it's the same song and dance that we see every couple months. Being said, we have to see what happens there. But with that also being said, there is nothing holding the market back from this point. Yes, volume has been low just because of the month. That's if you're typically trading around this month, volume is typically low. You also have a lot of people new to the market. So a lot of people are purchasing stocks because people are trying to obtain assets because of the scare of inflation. Yes, everything is slowly pointing to the fact that it is transitory. We're having cycles, essentially, in which we just got to travel and leisure, right? They had a big spike in inflation because supply and demand. This is one thing we have to look at. Now we're going into the fall. What is the next thing that is going to ramp up that we're going to see inflation for? But these things will eventually go away, right? And so being said, and also going into fall, we also have to remember that the Delta variant is still out there. We got mandates on vaccines. There is the Fed know this. The Fed understand this, and so they are not going to put anything in stone until they figure out what exactly is going on. And it may be a very long time before that happens. So everybody wants to know, because you have these big whales that are purchasing all this equity. They let them know before they shift money around. And being said, there's still a lot of uncertainty. But the good thing though, is that growth in tech has essentially got the green flag from this point to the end of the year. I think tech will have a massive run going into the holidays. Also being said, you have to remember August has been a slow month in volume, although volume has been a little bit more than it normally typically is. You have to also think, again, September, October are kind of down months. We do have a couple weeks in there. Looking back on SPY, something I was just looking at. Let me remove the studies here. So if you go back, let's see, to September of last, I gotta go further back. I'm only back a year. We'll go back 3 years. Here we go. We'll do it this way. We'll look at on the weekly here. So if you go back to September last year, right, it's not saying this is the same. We're in a completely different state. You cannot base what we're going through a historic time in the stock markets, right? There's never been so much money in the stock market or in the economy. You have to remember that. Being said, it's not saying that this will happen. There may be a very diluted version of this, and that's what my thought process is that there will be an extreme diluted version of this. But back in September, as you see towards the end of August, we started falling down. Then around towards the end of September, we had a nice little push. And then we had one last drop in October before we started making our push into the holiday season. And I'm expecting that. I'm expecting a diluted version of that. I do not expect any crash. There will be no crash. There's not enough negative news. We had the Taliban stuff, we had the China stuff. Nothing is tanking this market. It has to be something new. It has to be something fresh. Even the Delta variant isn't going to tank this market unless there is actually supply. There's something directly affecting supply and cause for more concern dealing with the Delta variant, then it could be a concern. But right now it is not. Right now, everybody's lived through it for a year and a half, a little over a year. You have to know people are not afraid of it. So the market is not going to crash because of a Delta variant. They already know what it's about, right? They all have some understanding. It's not like it is fresh and brand new like it was last March. All that being said, Powell, again, diluted version. I think tech will be extremely strong. As we can see, it doesn't sell off. But I think once the volume pours back in, we should start seeing more volume pour in around next week. I think this week we might have a pretty bullish week. Again, you have to play it day by day. But I think towards the end of the week, what we're going to see is September, volume is going to start creeping back in, and that might actually start to push the market down. How far down? I don't know. Even in March, we barely hit, I think it was like 7.5% in the general market as a pullback. Normally, you're looking at like 10, 15%, right? On a normal year, but this is not a normal year. Everything is going to be diluted from this year, possibly even part of next year. Who knows for how long? Well, it won't go on forever. No, it won't go on forever. But a lot of stuff is brand new. It's not going to just influx of money, then 2 months later it's just going to drop. It's not the way it works. The influx of money, it takes many months for it to actually hit the market and actually circulate in the market. And being said, there's a very delayed effect on everything. So being said, I think towards the end of the year, we're going to have a massive run in tech and growth. There's nothing holding tech back. The rates, right? They're going to debate the whole what's going to happen with the asset purchasing. When is that going to happen, right? But I think that is solely dependent on what happens with the debt ceiling. And so, yeah, there's going to be that talk. There's going to be numbers coming out. I don't think anything. We got the CPI, Chicago CPI numbers on Tuesday. I don't think any of that stuff is really relevant anymore. None of that stuff is holding as much weight as it has over the past couple months because there was a lot of unknowns on what was going to happen. But there's been a lot better clarification, just more guidance as far as the rates and if they're going to change. And now being said, again, diluted version. So I think at that point, a managed risk, don't go all in. Yes, numbers are high. Even I tell that to myself. I'm hoping September, October, even though this is a diluted version of a pullback, I think it should give us enough of a pullback to where we could get good entries going into the holiday season. That doesn't mean go crazy and start buying everything now. Because I believe there'll be some kind of pullback. Again, once volume comes, it might just push the market down for no apparent reason. Yes, that does happen. So just be aware of that. But again, volume has been low. And so we've been trading sideways a lot and having these extremely random pumps on everything. But SPY, like I said, this week, last week of August, had that nice pump after Powell. I mean, they had the pre-meeting notes and something I didn't really pick up on, but we traded, everything was hitting support after the Taliban stuff on Thursday. And then your Apples, your Teslas, Googles, everything was just hitting support Thursday night. And then coming to Friday, everything was flat. So that was a telltale sound that I wasn't paying close enough attention to, because as soon as the gates open on Friday, essentially all the stocks, all the growth stocks started to run. And then typically, if there was a lot of concern about what Powell was going to say, there would have been a lot of stalling before then, perhaps even some selling before then. But there was none of that. It essentially took off out of the gates. It paused briefly as soon as I think it actually pulled back a little bit once Powell was speaking, not a lot, and then it just took off again, and then it ran essentially for the whole day. So being said, I think, again, there might be a little bit of pullback on Monday just because of this overextended move here. But I think there'll be a little bit of pullback Monday. Then maybe we may rip all the rest of the week in growth. Again, stay with leaders, stay with strength right now until volume comes back. Stay with strength. A lot of these mid-cap, lower-cap stocks, we may see them come back to life even more next month. They might be the leaders, and you might see your big tech pulling back a little bit more. To give us better position going into the holiday season. Again, we do have like a W, right, for the first 2 weeks of September from what we've seen. There is a bit of a pullback, then a bit of a bounce, and then a little bit more of a pullback, and then we take off into the holiday season. Again, if the same pattern persists, right? But again, diluted version. The whole theory on this is a completely diluted version of what we've seen over the past couple Septembers. Again, because we are living through a historical time and we aren't going to see any major corrections. And I know a lot of analysis out there are saying that there needs to be a correction, but they've never lived through a historic period like we are now with this massive amount of money that is in the market now. At some point next year, I believe we will have a decent correction. How much? I don't know. If something happens with the Delta variant or some other variant that comes along the line, causing us to lock down, then it's going to reset, right? So again, we will deal with that when it comes. We're taking it day by day, and that's how you should look at the market essentially. So QQQ breakout all-time highs. Monday, I think we actually come back down and retest this, and then possibly keep going. Again, I think everything is high, but I think it can go much higher. Things like your Teslas have been stalled for months on end. The massive consolidation. Once this thing does break, it is really going to rip, in my opinion. But I'm looking either for the break or for it to come back down to load and get ready for the holiday. The holiday push, I think, will be massive for Tesla. But again, it just really depends. Also, there was some negative news that came out about Tesla Autopilot, and I think it involves Bezos as well. That really doesn't matter, in my opinion. It might give a little brief pullback. But again, I think once volume comes in, that we're going to see a little bit bigger of a pullback. We'll just have to see how much. Again, for my watch list, I don't really have a lot. I do have Amazon. I do have Roblox and LRCX are a couple of the ones I have, but ultimately I'm sticking with these. So if you see this list here, just kind of go off of these. These are the ones that have had the most value and the most strength. I look for my shots, right? If there's nothing really going on, don't try to push it, especially in those markets. I've been trading pretty light just because of what has been going on with the low volume and managing risk best that way. You can't go swinging for the fences, right? You got to manufacture runs. That's what you have to do, is manufacture runs in a market like this. So being said, not much. Facebook did a lot of running. Again, looking for pullbacks, this overextended moves. I think Google, a monster. This is one to really keep an eye on. Once the market does start to sell, it'd be one to definitely pick up. They crushed earnings. They continue to crush earnings. Best earnings reported so far after this quarter. Amazon looks like it's starting to break up. So that's something to really keep in mind. Keep on watch. If this continues, this might be one that actually starts to continue to run. I think the expected move is 73 points this week. So with that even being said, it's an expected move. So it can go both ways. Just be aware of that. Look for solid support. Perhaps a retest of this 3309 zone here, and then possibly break back up would be fantastic. So I want to watch Amazon closely this week. Trying to think. Everything else, I think Airbnb is kind of in a bad spot. It had that run up. It really needs to hold this Bollinger Band, or else I can see it going back to the 135 mark. NVIDIA, massive run. Again, I think there's going to be a sell point sometime either during this week or next week. As soon as we start seeing that bigger volume come in, I think we'll see that come down. PLTR, I like this one. It's playing range. It tried to break out, but it looks like it's being pushed back into the range. So looking for possibly a 24 entry mark on this one. Roblox, why I like this one on a daily. It's retesting old resistance here, and that's what I want to see. And from that point, I'd like to try to take an entry at this 82.42 mark and keep a tight stop on it, and possibly try to aim to try to break that 100 mark again. Is something I want to watch. Etsy has had a big breakout. It looks like it's retesting, something to keep on watch. Shop, same thing. It looks like it's breaking and retesting, looking for it to run this week. But definitely I want to see the market pull back. Gold had a massive run. It's really breaking out. I actually look to see if it will retest the 168 mark here. If it does, I will actually look to get a position. Inflation stuff really isn't going to run up gold. I think with the Taliban stuff and everything really got gold to push out of this range. So we'll have to see how that plays out. TLT bonds are still doing what they're doing. I mean, they're fluctuating back and forth. As long as there are no massive moves, we're okay with where bonds are at. Bitcoin going for all-time highs again, trying to break that 50. I think once that cracks 50, we'll start seeing your other ones like coin and everything start to really fly as well. So keep that on watch. But this video is getting pretty long. I did want to kind of iterate my game plan for the next coming weeks because it's important, especially after what happened in Jackson Hole. That was extremely important. We waited essentially all month for that, only to get some news that we've had in the previous couple of weeks. So being said, if you've made it this far, remember to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.